Welcome back to the Stay Broke podcast. Today we're sitting down with Lori Webb, entrepreneur, business owner, and co-founder of Health House, a wellness collaborative bringing together movement, recovery, holistic health services, and community under one roof. Many people know Lori through Property Specific Realty, a company she helped build alongside her husband, Chris Webb. She is also the co-founder of Salt Hair here in Wake Forest. Today we're talking about business, health, resilience, leadership, real estate, wellness, and what it takes to build a life and a career around purpose. Lori, welcome to the Stay Broke podcast.
Thank you very much. Can you pack any more into that?
I think you're still trying, aren't you?
I know. Always.
Serial entrepreneur. Yeah. Like we mentioned, your husband, Chris Webb, he was on the podcast a few episodes ago, and he started talking about you and kind of what you're doing, and definitely piqued my interest. So I appreciate you coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. We like to just start off with who are you and where are you from?
Yeah. So I've been actually in Wake Forest for almost 20 years now. I'm from Boston originally. Grew up in an awesome family, really close with my fam. And we grew up pretty, I would say, like lower middle class in an area right outside of Boston. I had a really good childhood. I was a little bit of a crazy teenager, not that great in school. And things sort of started changing right around college years when I started getting serious into learning more, reading more, understanding. Grades started going up, and got a little bit more of a work ethic. So, crazy teenage year time, and then a little bit of a transformation as I was through college.
What did you go to college for?
I went for English, and I had a minor in marketing. I would do that all over again, very differently. But that was the kind of just the path that I followed.
What about your parents? What did they do for work?
Yeah, so my dad was the Verizon man. He worked for Verizon back when it was like 9X and Ma Bell and all kinds of other things. So he met my mom, and they both worked there, and they got married very young. They had me very young. It's a young family. I'm the oldest of all of my cousins, and I have a younger brother. So they were very, very early 20s when they had us. So it was a working class family upgrown, as I grew up. But we had a lot of fun, really close family.
When did you figure out that you had the entrepreneurial spirit, or when did you start thinking or dreaming of having your own businesses? So I don't know that hit me until a lot later on in life. I worked during college as a cocktail waitress at Jillian's right across from Fenway Park. And that's when I learned that I loved to make money. It was one of the first jobs that I was able to make some money, and I knew I was a little different because people cared a lot more about days off than I did. I wanted days on. I wanted to be on the schedule. I wanted to be working, and I got put in a leadership position there to head everybody up as waitresses, and I liked that. I liked being the lead. I liked kind of setting goals for everybody and making some money, side pocket stuff. I was paying for my college all through those years, and my car and things like that. So stuff started to shift right around that time where I got interested, but it was more just the money side of it and being able to afford things on my own and not have to go to my parents for stuff. So that was kind of a changing point. What did you do after college?
So right after college, I got a really cool job. I was a cheerleader competitively in high school and college, and I got a job actually making cheer uniforms, lacrosse uniforms,
field hockey, different stuff like that. And interestingly, during that time, about 6 months in, so right after school, I got mono. And mono led to a couple of cascading illnesses. So I got sarcoidosis, and the sarcoid went untreated for about 6 months. It's a similar type of disease, autoimmune to lupus. And I was pretty sick, but I also had some neurological stuff going on. So they really had a hard time pinpointing what I had. And turns out the sarcoid led to a nervous system disorder. And I was pretty sick for a good year. I found a doctor that took a huge interest in me and researched with me. He was from Harvard. He was a blessing, and he changed my life. He got me a lot better in a fast amount of time. I had to do a lot of things to get better, including 6 months of heavy-duty steroids. So I got bigger, so you can imagine. But it cleared things up, and after about a year to a year and a half, I was a lot better. That set something off in me, though, that I always look back now, and it made me very aware of how fast you can lose everything. And it's just kind of strange because during that time, 20 years after, I was very, very healthy, but I always thought, like, I got to work hard. I got to save money. I don't ever want to be broke again, out of work for a year and a half. And God forbid if that happens again, like, I want to be able to have my own money to pay for resources and help get myself well. So it was interesting foreshadowing without me even realizing, that was just subconsciously happening. So I became like a work animal. I don't think I took a weekend off in 20 years. It's kind of wild. Seriously.
What industry did you get into after that?
Yeah, so my story's wild. Right from there, as I started getting better, I went to a big event, wine and dinner event out in Boston, and I got approached by a producer in LA. They were there visiting, and they were doing a commercial in Malibu for L'Oreal. And they asked if I wanted to be in the commercial. So, I went home, talked to my family. They said it sounds like a scam, it sounds kind of crazy. Wound up talking to these people on the phone. It was legit. And, I was feeling better, so I was kind of ready to go for anything. And within 3 weeks, I had hopped on a plane, and I was on the beach in Malibu filming a L'Oreal commercial. And I thought, this is the life. This is exactly what I'm meant to be doing. And it was so fun. So I stayed there. I stayed there for 3 years. I did a show called Big Brother. So it was Big Brother 5 that I got on. And then a few shows. I mean, I was terrible at acting. So it wasn't like I was going to have this revolutionary career. But I got some commercials out of it and got some money and saved up and started. So strange. I was, so odd. Everybody out in Cali and LA were living it up and having fun. And I was sitting in corners of sets reading books on 401ks and saving my money while people were going out to Europe and doing fun, cool, different things. So I was always just a little different with stuff. It was fun out there. I stayed out there for about 4 years, but I realized that unless I had a true ability, I wasn't going to make it. I was already on the older side, around 28, which is ancient for being out in LA as a girl, as a woman. So I I started looking at investment properties, and I joined a group called the Marshall Reddick Group, and we learned a lot about investment properties. And so I started taking the money that I was getting from commercials and investing in properties, and I invested in 2 in Austin, Texas, and 2 in Raleigh, North Carolina, all purchased online by, didn't go out. I just had no fear then. I had already been through a really hard, bad time in my life. And I knew I was going to be working my butt off always. So I bought 4 investment properties. And ultimately, when I came out here to visit them, pick a property manager, I just fell in love with Raleigh. And a couple weeks later, I moved really fast. A couple weeks later, I was preparing to move all my stuff and get something here. And I remember at that time when I was looking out here, I said to my boyfriend then, if we can find something really nice under $400,000 or $500,000, let's just put a deposit down and do it. And one of the first places we saw, we loved, and it was $150,000. So we signed a deposit check down at that time, and then within weeks I was out here. So it was wild. I mean, my first 25 years of life, 26 years or whatever, a lot happened, a lot of things that made their mark and kind of got me to where I am now. But I look back now and realize how important some of the decisions that I was making, but that I was making so fast, were happening. It's just interesting.
How was it being on Big Brother?
Nuts. Friggin' nuts. Yeah. The first day that I got in it, now I didn't set out to be on a reality show. I got an agent really fast, and they called me and they said, there's a casting call for Big Brother. And I said, my parents that was one of the things they said, if you're going to go out there, no reality shows. And they said, well, it's not a dating show. It's actually a game. It's pretty interesting. And I went, and there were about 1,000 girls there that looked exactly like me. They were all short brunettes, bubbly personalities. And I think I got it because I just didn't really care if I got on it or not. I honestly felt more like I didn't want to be on it. So I think that read well to them. And after about, 15 interviews at that point, as it started getting really weaned down to the last few people, then I was like, all right, it's on. I want to win this. I want to get in this. So I got chosen. And the first day that I was in there, I was like, oh my God, this is, I don't know if you've ever seen the show. You're basically in a room like this most of the time. I mean, it's a house on a lot, but you're behind 4 walls all the time with probably the craziest, most different type of people that you could ever be with. And the first night, a bunch of the guys streaked down naked and ran through the house. And I thought, God, what did I get myself into? It's crazy. And then on that very, I think it was the second day, they had a big competition. I won the competition. I was able to either take the money that they offered, which was $10,000, which was more money than I had probably ever made at one time in my life. Or you could pass it on to the next person in line, and they could decide and the golden rule in those shows is you never take the money. I took the money in about 1 second. They had to cut and play with editing and make it look like we were all standing around and I was making a really long decision. But in reality, I took that money like that. And ultimately that led to my demise on the show. But I was pretty normal on the show, and I was surrounded by some crazy people. So it was wild. I lasted on it for 4 weeks. I went home with that money. I think I paid off my credit card. That's about what $10,000 gave you. You know, it's not, it seemed at that age to be so much, but I think literally I paid off my credit card with it. And then just continued to work out there until I wound up in Raleigh.
Okay.
Yeah.
What'd you like about Raleigh?
I loved the name, which is so random. That was one of the first reasons that I focused in on this area. I liked that it was in the East Coast because I was closer to my family. The cost of living seemed crazy to me, especially for having seasons, having more mild weather, having good opportunity for jobs, what you could buy for a home. There was really nothing that I didn't like about it. So again, we're going on 18 years that I've been here. A lot has changed, but I fell in love with it literally as soon as I moved here. It took me probably another 5 or 6 years to really gravitate to Wake Forest, because when I first came out, it seemed very like small town to me. And so coming from Boston and then LA to Raleigh is different, but Raleigh in the middle of it didn't feel that different. But as I went into the outskirts, it totally was a different game for me.
Yeah.
But then I wound up in loving Wake Forest, and now like my whole life, all friends, everything's here.
When did you get into the real estate game?
So it started when I was back on sets and reading again about, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or I think that Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That was an important book in my life. And I read a lot of like Susie Orman's books. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing these names right. It's been a while. And I knew that I did not want to grow up average. I wanted to do something like, I wanted to take risks, and if it made me lose, I always had work to fall back on. But if it made me gain, then great. So, that's why I took the money that I had made in LA and bought those 4 properties. So buying investment properties was my in to real estate. And then when I came out here, I got into property management, and Chris, my husband now, was the one that hired me for my first job as a leasing consultant. And I took that job, but I knew I'd work my way up pretty fast because I had some good real world experience of owning my own stuff and having pressure to be able to pay for my own things, and be responsible for 4 properties that, so I worked my way up in real estate and multifamily, and I stayed in that industry. I became not long after, maybe 2 years after, a director of marketing, and had pretty big portfolios that I was in charge of. So it was a time where I had a lot of pressure. I worked with developers, and they needed their leasing properties to go. They needed money coming in and to pay their bills. So I had big portfolios and a big job, and it was exciting, and a lot of travel over 10 years, and I learned a ton. Yeah.
What made you decide to leave the industry and start your own thing?
Yeah, so during that time, so Chris and I both had corporate jobs. We don't have children, so we were able to save money. So again, I always had that, like, and I realize it now, I always had that thing in the back of my head: save as much money as you can, because in case you ever get sick again, I'm not going to go through disability. That was a very humbling experience, and I don't want to go to family. I want to have my own resources and my own money. So I had a very strong mentality to work as much as I could, to save as much as I could. And then we started taking risks on, well, they weren't really risks at the time because properties out here were like $150,000, $160,000. So we were buying investment properties. I had already had the 4 that I came along with. And we started buying some up in areas in Wake Forest and in Raleigh, and loved it. So we started out buying single family homes, renting them out, and we'd property manage them. Then we started doing renovations. And when I say we, I mean I gave guidance on what I thought the colors and design should be, and Chris did the renovations. And we racked up quite a few, and then we started doing some really cool reno properties, and bought our first like beach home. So we did a VRBO. We actually did that on HGTV. So that was an interesting one that HGTV cameras followed us around. They did an hour like documentary special on our beach reno, and that came out really cool. So we were in the real estate world while we still had our jobs. And at a certain point, I'm pretty good at sales. I'm very good at sales. And I thought I could take my career up a notch if I got into real estate for myself. So we had his income. I was able to leave real estate, and we still had, at that time, probably close to 45 or 50 income investment properties. So we were doing all right, and I felt okay to take the leap and go out on my own. So really, I started as a real estate agent. I didn't, I became a broker in charge. So I got myself licensed so that we could have right around the same time Chris was doing it too. And he became a broker in charge. We knew that we wanted to work for ourselves. So I never worked for any of the major companies. I just did my own real estate. So learned from the ground up. And I mean, my first year I became a top producer, and I was a top producer from 2019 to the time that I got sick. And I loved real estate. I love real estate still. It's an awesome feeling. You can make a lot of money in it. You can also fail miserably. It's very, very hard. People really underestimate how difficult of an industry it can be. Just getting your own clients, starting your own business, you know how that goes. And I did really well. And so right after me, Chris followed, and he jumped in the game, and he was awesome with investment, as he had all of this experience. And Chris is a little bit like Sheldon on Big Bang Theory or Rain Man. He's extremely smart with numbers. So he worked on the side of investments, and I really helped people that were moving from out of state coming here, which were a lot of people. I set up a group called Moving to Raleigh, and we had a ton of people join that group. And so I made myself kind of an expert in there, and I got a ton of clients from it. So so real estate was awesome, and it was more than paying the bills. It was allowing me to take my entire family on vacations. It allowed us to do a lot of different things that I had never grown up with that experience. And Chris certainly, Chris grew up in, I don't know if he said it or not, but in like trailers, broken family. Mine was a little bit different, where we had really great family, but still lower middle class income. So we were like living it up for 5, 6, 7 years during that time. It was quite nice, really fun, exciting, stressful, but I loved it. And then I got sick.
How, before we get into that, how
Yeah.
was it having all the investment properties? Because like people get this idea that like everybody says if you want to build wealth, you invest in properties, but everybody somewhere along the line they got this idea of passive income and that rental properties are passive income.
Yeah.
But they're a lot of work.
Yeah, they are a lot of work. Luckily, Chris did all that work. My properties that I owned myself, I had property managers for. We were from the property management industry. Chris was a VP of operations and I was a marketing director. So I did all of the leasing and marketing for the properties, and he picked software. He was really, really on it in terms of finding the right types of tenants. So he knew red flags. So we had maybe more of a leg up than some people do because we came from that industry. So yeah, it's a little bit challenging, but we didn't have too many problems. Like it actually went really well. And I think that came from finding the right tenants. That was always like the goal. He knew red flags to know if someone had potential to be evicted, or calling past landlords and getting, kind of what their payments were like and how they were as tenants. So we were really lucky to have that knowledge already. So I never considered owning the 45 to 50 investment properties that hard. And that got us to start our real estate firm, like really have some grounding, because we started property managing them and we didn't have to build up a portfolio. We already had our own that we were managing. And then friends and neighbors started seeing what we were doing and got interested and talked to Chris, and he'd help them buy an investment property and then would manage it for them. And that's kind of what laid the groundwork for our property management company, which ended up being our brokerage company.
So it sounds like you treated it like a job, though, just not
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's probably why it worked. You can't just buy a property on a whim, rent it out to people and think that you can be hands off.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got sick?
Yeah. Yeah.
Want to get into that?
Yeah. I'll unload. So because of my past experience, being sick and going through that year to 2 years of being sick, I was able to kick the sarcoidosis from early on, but because it went untreated for so long, it had gone into my nervous system and attacked my nervous system, and it left me with POTS. I don't know if you're familiar with POTS. It stands for Postural Orthostatic Tachycardia Syndrome, and it means that when you stand up, you faint. Your heart rate sitting down could be like 50 beats per minute, and when you stand up it goes to like 190 beats per minute, and that happened to me because of the mono that kicked off sarcoidosis that went undiagnosed for a little while. And so I had POTS for 20 years, but I took 2 medicines and I lived a completely normal life. Like I ran 10Ks. I was very in shape. I was obviously working like a workhorse, very type A, had a lot going on, but handled it well. So POTS never slowed me down, got in my way. I learned to live with my new normal and became accustomed to it, and knew my limitations, and that's how I lived for 20 years. Well, as COVID came out, and I say unfortunately for me, this might not apply to everybody else, but I got the vaccine, and when I got the COVID vax, I will tell everybody this. I felt like it took a few hours, but that night I laid on the floor in the living room with the TV on, and I asked Chris to stay up with me, and he slept on the couch because I felt like I was getting poisoned. I felt like my whole body was being poisoned. It was crazy. It lasted for about 8 hours. I remember I was looking at the TV, but then looking up at the ceiling and thinking, like, is this it? Like, did something go drastically wrong? Am I going to die tonight? And it was terrifying. And I really, really felt that way. I felt like from head to toe, there was poison in my body. And that next morning, it kind of went away. It just dissipated, and that feeling was gone. And I tried my best to not be freaked out by it and forget about it. And then a couple weeks later, I got COVID. And it became this like perfect storm of like an attack on my body. So my body was already susceptible because I had POTS, and then I had that vaccine situation. And then 2 or 3 weeks later, I got COVID, and it was so weird. I woke up at like 4 a.m, and I hit Chris and I said, I have COVID. And he said, what do you mean? You just woke up in the middle of the night and you're telling me you have COVID? And I said, the feeling that I had when I felt like I was poisoned is exactly what I feel like right now. I don't even need a test. And so he ran out and got a test. I took it and I had COVID. And it was a pretty mild case, but I had really intense headaches, and that scared me because I had a nervous system disorder. And it also scared me that initial morning when I got COVID, I felt like that poison feeling. But then the rest of the 5 or 6 days of having it was nothing. I mean, it literally felt like a cold. It was no big deal. I just had intense headaches, and that was the biggest problem with it. But then some weird things started to happen. So as I got out of the acute phase, it became something that started feeling like a little bit more chronic. So the very first thing that happened, Chris like swatted a fly, and I hit the ceiling. I mean, I've never had a reaction like that before. I was like, oh my God, what did you just do? Oh my, like my heart was pounding. It took me to like a level 11. And he was like, the hell, I just like swatted a fly. And it was a very strange response to something like that. And what I noticed first is that I started having like these massive sensitivities to noise and to light. And they continued, and they got worse and worse. And then over some weeks, I started noticing that my vision started getting dramatically worse. So blurry vision, double vision, being not able to drive because I couldn't really see like peripherally. And then things continued to get worse. I started getting weaker. I started getting really fatigued. I was sleeping like hypersomnia, like 16 hours, couldn't wake up. And then it started getting real bad. So as I'd stand up, I would faint. I started having arrhythmias, and real bad tachycardia, and all of that had gone away when I had POTS. So I remember calling my doctor saying, like, I don't know, ever since COVID, it seems like my medicines aren't working anymore. Like something weird is happening and I feel totally off. And my heart feels like it did when I first had POTS. Like, what's going on? And we were really at a loss. It sucked. It was a beginning time of what is still going on 4 years later, but a time that I was scared, confused, overwhelmed, because I really wasn't like connecting the dots yet, that like, because my COVID infection seemed so mild. But, you know, you got to remember the vaccine, what happened to me during that time. And then those severe headaches really like set the stage for what I understand now. But at that time, I just didn't understand it. And doctors didn't understand it. It was the beginning or the middle of 2022, because I'm right on my 4-year anniversary right now. So it's, yeah, the middle of 2022. They didn't know. They were like, this is weird that your medicines aren't working anymore. And we tried all these different medications, and medication switches are very hard for people with dysautonomia, which is POTS, because if you don't go to the right one, you can have all kinds of symptoms. And I mean, it got so bad that basically I couldn't stand up without fainting. So that was like a new low for me. And every time I stood up, my heart would go so fast that I'd just faint again. So I'd get to the point that I would be on the floor crying that I don't want anyone to pick me up because I knew what was going to happen. So I thought that that was the lowest point, but that didn't even touch what the lowest points were. And I can elaborate more if you want me to go into some of the crazy symptoms that I had, because they're not well known, even though COVID, or what they call long COVID now, has inflated numbers for people that have like myalgic encephalitis and POTS, dysautonomia, EDS, MCAS. There's all these, what they were considered as rare chronic illness diseases that, you know, you couldn't see. At that time, I think there were like 3 million cases in the United States of dysautonomia, and now there's something like 9 million. And the numbers for MCAS, EDS, ME, and all of that have substantially grown too. So the majority of the people, you know, I don't meet many people that on the street or anything that have gone through what I've gone through. However, I joined a lot of support groups online, and there are millions of people that go through what I go through that still are unwell and treated really poorly in the system, the medical system, and are lost and are scared. Many have died. Many have unfortunately taken their lives because the symptoms can get so bad. So one of the symptoms that I say was like purely from the devil was something called PEM, which stands for post-exertional malaise. And that happened to me about a year in. So what was happening is my body was struggling so much to even try to stand up that it was so exhausted. Turns out my cells were going through mitochondrial dysfunction. So I was not getting oxygen like a normal person would to their cells. And so just the effort of getting up in the morning, waking up and walking to the bathroom would cause me to have to come back to bed. I would be completely incapacitated. I didn't have strength to talk, to lift my head, to barely watch TV. I would have to lay in the dark. And I had no idea whether that was going to last for an hour or the whole day. It was literally the most evil symptom, and I had it every single day. So every day, like Groundhog's Day, my day would wake up with PEM from getting up to go to the bathroom, and I would just wait. I would wait it out, and I was too scared at that time to even like cry about it. I mean, I went through a very, very severe depression stuff a little bit further on, but at that point I was just like, holy shit, am I like dying from this? Like, what is happening to my body? I had no control over anything. And then the periods would fade, and then I'd be a little bit more back to normal. But then the next day, the same thing would happen. So like, to say it sucked is because it literally stopped me on a dime. I couldn't work anymore. I couldn't talk on the phone. I couldn't watch TV like a normal person. I mean, it was like, what the hell is going on with me? But then I was going in these groups and people were saying like the exact same things. And they were saying that doctors just said, yeah, I mean, you're probably have anxiety, and you probably are fatigued, and you worked a lot, so you probably got yourself really stressed, and now you're like this, which was like crazy. I will say, shout out to my girl Jenna. She's my doctor, and she is a godsend, and she worked so hard to try to help me, but she was, I mean, just as lost as everybody else was, but at least she didn't like gaslight me. I mean, she knew me from before, and then she knew what happened, and she knew I would never choose to be doing this, and that this wasn't anxiety. These were real symptoms. So as the story goes on, I became desperate, and I would take any medicine that they threw at me, thinking that anything would be like a magic pill. And unfortunately, some of those medicines that I took did put me in a severe state of depression. Almost one of them that I didn't even know had a black box warning of like suicide ideation. And I got that, and it was, I mean, I could almost cry thinking about it. It was literally the lowest point in my life. I remember laying by the pool and thinking to myself, like, if I just rolled over into the pool and didn't come up, like all this would be gone. And to even say that out loud and think it is sad and horrible. Turns out it was one of the medicines. We stopped that medicine after 7 days, and it completely went away. So thank God for that. But I was left feeling completely defeated, feeling that nothing, I mean, they threw so many medicines at me. And I remembered from my first time being sick 20 years ago, medicine helped me, and medicine got me better, and I was able to live my life normal. So I thought, I just need to find that medicine that's gonna fix this. And so now I'm going on year 2, and I'm sicker than I ever had been. So sick that it got me to the point that so I had PEM, which I thought was the worst symptom. Then I had that mental health situation that I thought nothing could get worse than this. Well, guess what? Something else got worse. Laying in bed one night, I sat up and I started having this like crawling feeling all throughout my body. I liken it to, because I've had friends that have withdrawn from very serious drugs, and they've explained it where they feel like they're crawling out of their skin and they can't get comfortable, and you have to move around, and I was like so at rock bottom that I was like rocking in a ball. I had a hat on because I probably hadn't showered in a week, because you really can't stand up to shower or you faint. And I was a mess, and I was rocking, and I was so afraid to wake Chris up to tell him something else is going on, because at this point I'm thinking that he's going to think I'm just batshit crazy, because how many things can go wrong? But I literally felt like I was crawling out of my skin. So I woke him up and we brainstormed a little, and he said, we've got to figure out something to make you calm down. And I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. I don't think I'm proud of it, but in a way I am. My dog is on Xanax, and for like plane rides and long car rides and stuff. So I took one of his Xanax, and that feeling kind of dissipated. Turns out, anyways, a couple of nights of that led me to, or Chris and one of my very good friends, Andrea, came over. It was around midnight, and I was having another one of, it really wasn't going away, so I couldn't stand up or I'd faint. I was laying on the floor kind of rocking because I felt like I was crawling out of my skin. And Chris just picked me up, and they took me to Duke emergency room, where there was an 18-hour wait. And everyone in there sounded like they had COVID. So I freaked the F out. And I said, get me out of here, because I'm terrified now of COVID and I don't know what's wrong with me. So we got a hotel around an emergency room that my cardiologist worked at. And we got up at around 3 in the morning or 4 in the morning, and we went to the ER, and luckily that worked at that time. There wasn't anyone there, and they took me in. And when I went in and I got up to walk into the ER, I fainted. And so they said, all right, something's here. This girl's got something. And they did all the blood work, and when everything came back fine, you must be nervous that you're here in the ER.
Stressed
and
out.
So, you fainted. And so I was in a wheelchair, and I said, God, what am I going to do? Like truly, like, God, what am I going to do? And I got up to go to the bathroom. And as I got out of the wheelchair, I fell and I bashed my head into the wall of the bathroom. And they, for covering their butts, they went and took me to have a CAT scan. And in the meantime, I contacted my doctor's office and I said, this is what's going on. I'm here. I need to be admitted. And they're about to let me go. And thank God, my doctor, my dysautonomia doctor, Dr. Mubarak, he's well known out here. And to give you a little bit of an idea, when I started seeing him, it was like a 2-year wait to get in with him. That's how severe this crisis was. Even though you don't think you know a lot of people that have it, it was a 2-year waiting list just in the Raleigh area. He had me admitted, and that first night in the hospital was the first night that I had peace, because I was monitored up. I knew people were going to observe me. I felt safe. I felt better. And, that's kind of where everything started. The next day in the hospital, so I ultimately was in the hospital for about 4 weeks. And they don't keep you in the hospital these days for 4 weeks unless you've got something severe. I'm going to take a sip. This is my electrolyte drink. So there's like 1,000 milligrams of sodium in this. So I drink 4 of these a day just to keep myself from fainting, along with pills. It's crazy how much salt I drink. And it's awesome, but it's also like drinking ocean water. So there's that. So the next day, my doctor came in and said, yeah, we get some work to do. And then he said, I'm going to send in a neuropsychiatrist because of the crawling out of the skin. That guy came in, I explained to him what was going on, and it took him 1 minute. And he said, you have, I think they call it akathisia or something like that, crawling out of your skin, feeling like, and what that is the GABA receptors in your brain are just not functioning the way that they normally would be functioning. And so, as I already knew, my norepinephrine, epinephrine, serotonin, dopamine, all of that stuff was off. But now it was at such a heightened stage because I was playing with medicines and doing all kinds of stuff. So while trying to get myself fixed, I was actually putting myself in even more harm, and things were just getting worse and worse and worse until they've reached this point now that I'm in this hospital. He said that, he's like, you actually did the right thing by taking your dog's medicine because Xanax is a fix for it, but unfortunately it only lasts about 4 hours. So we're going to put you on a Klonopin because that will last 12 hours, and that will do that. We do that twice a day, which I'm still on because the minute I stop taking it, those feelings come back. I wound up in the hospital for 4 weeks. They still couldn't get my blood pressure up past like 80 over 50, which was actually pretty good for me at that point. But there was only so much they could do. I left with about 12 to 14 medications, and I came home, and that's when this new life began. I mean, I literally had to rethink my whole life. Now, something happened in the hospital. A chaplain came in, and it was one of the greatest moments in my life. It made me completely reconnect and begin a different type of covenant with God that that I am so truly thankful for. So, I feel like Jesus has walked with me through this journey, and I really, really believe that. And I think that he's given me a lot of insight and ability to help some people. But that was a pivotal moment in my life. But now I'm at home and really have to begin my life again. And that was weird. So I felt better on the medicines, but I felt depressed that I was taking like 14 medicines. And that's like a little bit like polypharmacy, because you're taking a medicine and then you're taking another medicine to counteract, and you know how that goes. So I thought to myself, I'm like in my mid 40s. How am I going to live my life this way? Staying home, sleeping most of the day, being on all of these medicines. My exercise was like taking a lap around the pool. And so I got on Instagram and I started documenting a little bit. It just gave me something to do and something to give people a clue of why I just like was not me anymore. And people started reaching out to me like from everywhere. So it was so like satisfying in a way that I had a story to tell and maybe some ability to give people some clarity on some stuff, some help with some medicines, because they had the same symptoms I had. And then I had people reaching out to me that have gone through other health things that were saying, why don't you try this? And why don't you try this? And juicing really worked for me. It was just awesome. It was like so helpful to have that platform and to have people kind of reaching out, that it gave me a refreshed and renewed like will to fight that I had lost. And that kind of began this next chapter of everything. So do you want me to just go for it and
Sure.
keep going? Okay.
Going great.
Thanks. Thank you. So I started, there were a couple people, some special people that reached out to me, and they turned me on to the medical medium, which was helpful. I read that book, a couple of his textbooks, cover to cover, and it gave me something to work towards. It gave me different diets to eat, new understanding about what food does in your body and how that can be helpful, different types of detoxing. That led me to learning more about intermittent fasting. And intermittent fasting actually moved the needle for me. So changing my diet, of course, helped a bit, but it was more of a mindset shift. Intermittent fasting and putting myself into autophagy, which means, and you might be familiar, but I'd stop eating around like 5 p.m. and I wouldn't eat again until like 9 a.m. So I was going around 16 hours without eating. And that puts your body into a state of autophagy where it can like eat a lot of the bad cells in your body. It does a lot of different things. And I felt myself improve maybe 10 to 20% by doing that. So I was like, holy shit, this is something like that's not a pill, and I can do this and take control of it myself, and be able to control a little bit. So research, started talking to people, really smart researchers and biologists and different people that I had connected with online. And they were saying, well, if that worked for you, you might want to try cold plunging because that might help some of the neuroinflammation in your brain. And so I started doing some cold plunges, and that helped. And then I started doing them in the morning because it would help with some of the awful neuro symptoms that I had, the cognitive impairment, the dysfunction of I couldn't remember words, I couldn't remember names. It was total like neuroinflammation, inflammation throughout my body, which I still have. But the cold plunges gave me multiple hours of relief. I want to step back and say one amazing thing that happened in the hospital was I read a book called like CFS Unraveled. And I went online and got into their groups, and a lot of people said that low dose Abilify, which is actually, I'm trying to think of the type of medication it is. It's mental health medication when you take it at like a 50 milligram, but I was taking it at 0.5 milligram. It stopped those PEM episodes, those horrific episodes that I was having. So there was there were a few things wonderful that came out of the hospital. And the first was my true reconnection with our Lord. And the second was that medicine took me out of that horrific state. And so many things kind of happened out of the hospital that got me on this, but now I started doing some things holistically. And the cold plunges were another thing. And then I'd research more and I'd come upon another thing, like doing red light can go deep into the mitochondria, the cells, and the ATP, and refuel some energy and help get some oxygen and energy back into yourself. And so I started doing that, and that started giving me the ability to walk a lot more. And when I walked, I felt really good because I was standing up. I felt like I had a semblance of a life. I would walk and research. So I would be on the treadmill for like 2 hours, researching and researching. And I just learned so much about holistic things that I started taking away a medicine. Like I'd talk to my doctor and say, I think I can stop this one. And I think I can stop this one. And there'd be some that I'd stop and like crash. And I'd be like, all right, it's not time to stop that. But I got myself from about somewhere around 12 to 14 down to 8. So I felt like that was a win. And then things started continuing to change. So I got myself down to maybe 7 or 8 medicines. And then I started connecting with, like I had an IV nurse. Just really special people came into my life at this time. And she came every week, gave me IVs. I'd talk with her a lot. I would talk with, I had a couple of functional health doctors. My personal doctor, when I tell you, she would come over at bad points and lay in bed with me and hold my hand, and we would just cry. Well, I would cry and she would try to make me laugh and say, you look pretty and stuff. And she was amazing. And we would research. I learned so much about researching from her. And then I just was doing so much of my own researching. So I started learning about peptides, which I'll go into more in a second because I love those. But what happened was I was realizing that, okay, so anytime I still needed to see doctors all the time. I was very, very sick still, but I was helping myself in other ways. But like, I still didn't want to live like this. I wasn't working. I was walking a lot, which was amazing for my health. And it allowed me time to do research. But at the end of that, that would make me physically exhausted. So I still wasn't living a life. And trying to get into a rheumatologist, 3 years. Trying to get into any long COVID clinic, 3 years. Johns Hopkins, 4 years. One of my old POTS doctors was on a 4-year wait list. Like, it was unbelievable. The Mayo Clinic, everything was on these waits that were just, who can wait that long when you're that sick? So I'd get myself on these appointments and they'd eventually come to fruition, but I had to do so much work on my own. And so that's when all of these conversations became so valuable to me. And they kept teaching me like, oh, well, why don't you, try lymphatic drainage? And why don't you try meditation and certain types of breathing? And everything that I was doing, even though it wasn't like crazy, it would move the needle up like 5 points, 5 more points. So I probably, with the medicines and what I was doing, was getting back to about 50 to 60%, which felt really good. I had at that point still a level of PTSD. Like, I was terrified to catch any kind of virus. So I was almost becoming like scared to leave the house. I also, at that point, felt really weird and dumb leaving the house in a mask, because then everything had become so ridiculous at that point. Like, who's right, who's wrong, what do you believe, all this stuff. And like, I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin or anything. So I stayed mostly homebound and continued to keep on working on myself. And then I started thinking, like, there's got to be a better way. Maybe there's a way I can use my resources and knowledge and now people that I know to put together a place that would have all of these things in-house. And so the like very beginnings of Health House started coming together. Like, why isn't there a place? So if I wanted to go to a cold plunge, I got to go here. If I wanted to get an IV, I have to go here. And if I want nutrition info, I have to go here. And if I want to get in red lights, I have to go here. Like, it was ridiculous. So why not have a place that has all of it, along with movement for people that need to do, I mean, you got to move. You have to work on your body in these situations. You know, you need to build some muscle. You can't atrophy. And then have some practitioners on hand too, health coaches, nutritionists, acupuncturists, chiropractors, things like that. So I was like, why does nothing like this exist? Is it just out here that it doesn't exist? And I started looking, and like I did not find places out there that had like everything. And I probably at that time was still like a little too weak to, but I was developing it in my head as I was getting better. Then I started looking into and really researching peptides, and peptides helped move the needle maybe another 20-30%.
Oh, wow.
So now we're talking that I'm up to around, on a good day, 80%. Now, this disease makes you flare and have ups and downs, but on a good day, I was at 80%. And 80% of me is still way over what 100% of other people are, because I'm just built that way. I am a fast mover, a hard worker, type A. If I want it done, I'm going to get it done. So I was okay with 80%. It sucked on the days that I was, you know, lower, but peptides were a big, big help. And I was just cracking the surface, like cracking that nut, like beginning. Let's start with NAD, NAD. And that's a peptide that gives you energy. It helps with mental clarity, with some focus and stuff. And I did really, really well on it. Lo and behold, there's peptides that are phenomenal, like for people that have mitochondrial dysfunction, which is one of the things that I have. There's like SS31 or MOTS-C that actually, they're mitochondrial derived, and they work on the ATP in the cell, and they bring oxygen to the cells. And I didn't know that then, but just doing NAD and BPC, or Wolverine I was doing, which is BPC and TB500, because I also had pain everywhere in my body. Both of those things like really helped. And so then I was just like, God, like there's this whole like holistic way of living that now I was down to like 5 medicines. So I'd gone from like 12, 14 to 8 to like 5, and I'm feeling way better. At that time, I also was seeing good doctors because it had passed the time, like that long wait. And so I was in with some really great ones that, again, I luckily, other than the ER and crap doctors at the beginning, I was seeing some solid ones that were like, yeah, we're seeing what you're a bad case, but we're seeing what you're going through, and it's real, and we don't understand it yet, and we're calling it long COVID, but it seems like it's turning into different things. What really happened to me is my long COVID or whatever you want to call it completely changed the biology in my body. It changed all my neurotransmitters, all my hormones. It's why my medicine stopped working, because everything in my body changed. And I got severe dysautonomia, so severe POTS, lupus, EDS, MCAS, and probably a very slight case of ME, which is myalgic encephalitis. So I still have all of those diagnoses. So obviously life isn't easy. I still take 5 to 6 medicines a day. I take peptides that work a little bit better. I do all of the things that I had started doing along with many other holistic things. And then I went on a podcast called What the Healthcare with Emily. And she was a former nurse who refused to take the vaccine just for her own principles. And she left. She ultimately had no choice, either take it or leave. And she left healthcare, and she got in her car and she went on TikTok and she said how wrong things felt, how weird that was that she lost her. She just went on a, purge. She got like 100,000 followers or people that like literally it just blew up. And we became friends. And I said to her, I've got this crazy idea that might be able to help people that are in my boat and also just people that are on health journeys themselves. And it's called Health House. And it is basically a place that would have practitioners, integrative and holistic, a movement studio, and wellness modalities, and will carry peptides. I think she was the one that influenced like carrying the peptides, which was a great thing. And all holistic, all organic, local, good stuff that we could trust and good people that we could trust. And that kind of opened up a whole new world for me because it was allowing me to do what I needed to do. It gave me purpose again because I still hadn't felt strong enough to go back to real estate because real estate can take a lot out of you. And one thing that I know from what I have is that regardless of how much better I get, I cannot deal with oxidative stress or stress the same way. Any level of stress can significantly impair me, which is really frustrating because stress is like everywhere. So I deal with it in certain ways. Certain peptides help that, certain breathing. I learned how Navy SEALs breathe and different ways of, just really kind of relaxing my brain and getting myself out of serious, permanent, sympathetic overdrive, that fight or flight all of the time. I'll have different periods in the day where I can do that. But I had not gone back to real estate. And so Health House really filled that void because I love real estate. And it gave me a sense of purpose. And it really felt like it was the path that I should be on that could help people, which also became super important to me. I prayed a lot, and it just really felt like it was the right thing to do. And so we went for it. We didn't just build one place. We have our headquarters in Rollsville. We opened up another one in North Raleigh. Then in that one, we have something like 13 practitioners in there, and all very like-minded. And so, they all refer to each other. So when one has a patient, like our primary care might have a patient, well, he might see that this person really needs to see mental health or chiropractic or get scanned for thermography or need some serious like massage work or something like that. So our places are super cool, and they are great resources for people that are healthy, they're great resources because honestly, the more I read about like saunas and stuff like that, like people should be doing that stuff. People should be doing red light, lymphatic drainage, vibration plates, some of this, certainly working on nutrition, all of this stuff, including peptides. As I'm reading, people like our age in our 40s and around there can live till like they're 110s and be pretty healthy. So it's kind of fascinating, the shift in science that's happened. And I really credit it to these last 6 years because so much came out of not knowing or understanding COVID that people, and pretty smart people, started learning for themselves, researching further, going in, diving deeper, digging for more information, not just taking what like the media and the news has to say about stuff, because that's all crap. And you know, there were just some people that I was so impressed with that like put their whole life into figuring out some of this stuff, that it's like trickling out now. And now some Yale studies and different studies are coming out that are really supporting a lot of the stuff that I was finding out like 2 years ago. So I talked a lot. You might have some questions. It's been a fascinating journey, but at this stage of the game, with what I'm doing and with having Health House, it has totally changed my life spiritually, emotionally, monetarily, because, you know, we spent a lot of money to build Health House. Luckily, I had the resources from having some excellent years in real estate. So that's to the point of where I am today. And I have so many people reach out on a daily basis. I got peptide certified. I got certified in Pilates. I got health coach certified. And I feel like I help a lot of people on a daily basis. And even on days that I'm feeling bad, then people surround me and comfort me. And so it's built a community that I'm really pretty proud of. So yeah, it's been a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So many questions. I'm trying to figure out where to start.
Yeah.
I got one of the biggest things is like people get sick all the time and they go to the doctor, they get put on medications, they accept that this is their new normal, and they just struggle through life and don't try and do anything different. Like what drove you to like, this can't be it?
Yeah.
Like there's got to be something else out there.
That's just not me. I mean, I could not accept that. And I've heard that a lot from people, like people just over medicate to just get rid of or fall into like habits or something, that just to numb themselves. And I'm just wired differently, and I was driven a different way. I would not accept that was going to be my life. I feel like I've got 50 more years left in this life, and I'm not going to live them that sick. I had already passed the point, and there certainly was a point where I could have died from it. I mean, it was very awful. And not only that, again, as I said before, I knew and read of and researched a lot of people that were unfortunately committing suicide because they didn't have maybe the resources that I had. I spent $180,000 out of my own pocket the first year to go travel to see different people and to get weekly infusion IVs and to do all kinds of treatments. Like I spent a lot of money, and there's a lot of people that don't have close to that. And my heart is broken for them because what do? They're suffering. They're literally suffering. And then there's another whole field of people that are gaslit and not believed. And that's just unbelievable to me. So I'm a fighter. I come from a family of boxers. My great-grandfather was Marvin Hagler's boxing promoter. I don't know if you know who that is, but he's a big fighter back in the day. Yep. My whole family was a family of boxers, and I'm a fighter, and like it didn't take me out, so I wasn't gonna let it keep me down. It took me down for sure. I hit the worst places in my life for a couple of years, but I was way too fired up, and I really got fueled by the people that were coming to me and asking for help. I enormously am grateful for the people that reached out just to offer words of encouragement and support, and were like with you and in your corner and following your story. That fired me up. But then people that reached out that were lost, and I was able to talk to them for an hour and a half on the phone and give them slight direction of where to start, that just like made me a different person. And that's what drove me trying to figure everything out and get certified for certain things and create this place. And so it was people.
Yeah. Well, I definitely want to, I have some business questions for you that I want to get to, but while we're talking about the health stuff, I don't even know where to start. Let's talk about peptides, because they're still not legal. They're for research use only. Yeah. And we had an experience where we needed them. My daughter does jujitsu, travels the world doing it, and she had a Liz Frank break in her foot.
Yep.
3 months before her adult debut in Portugal. And we had great doctors and a great surgeon, and like they all knew that she needed to be ready for competition in 3 months. We used the running PT, which is actually next door from here. They were amazing to help give her PT, but we needed peptides, and that would have helped. We went to a bunch of doctors. She was 17. Nobody would help us with it. And like, I knew I could order it online, but I'm not ordering something and injecting it into my daughter that I don't know enough about. And we ended up not getting it and not being able to help her. And I feel like it could have done a lot for her, and she's still struggling with it today.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, truly, because they are so helpful in so many ways. So things are changing a little bit. RFK is doing some work on getting certain peptides FDA approved. There's a few that are FDA approved. Like, people don't know insulin's a peptide.
Right.
Those GLPs, that's kind of what put it on the map. At least one of them, I think semaglutide is FDA approved. He's working on like 14 more, something like that. You got to be careful with them. You have to research. You have to know. And I think, when was that? A couple years ago?
2 years ago.
There's a lot that's changed in the last 2 years with peptides. There's certainly good United States-based providers. They are still considered for research only, so you have to research. And I was someone that was in such a low point that as long as I knew I researched, I made sure they had a certificate of authenticity. I made sure that they were batch tested and had a certain level of purity and third-party vetted. And, from nurses that I was talking to, I kind of learned the steps to make sure that I was getting good peptides. And that's what we provide now. They are research-only peptides. So you have to state that, and you have to state not for human consumption. But obviously, people are taking them for that. And I mean, just the stories that you hear from people about what they've done for them, like something like that. I mean, I don't know too much about her injury, but like a Wolverine type peptide could have really moved the needle for her. My brother had surgery on his neck, and I was like, take BPC. This is going to help you heal. It's going to help you recover better. And he had an awesome surgery and an awesome recovery. So continuing to hear things like that, I get it. I'm wide open now to big pharma and healthcare and how things work, and that people that you think or had always thought might have your best interests at heart don't always. So there has been a major shift in a lot of people doing their own research, and you got to be cautious and you got to be careful and smart about it. But you can find certain things out there that can be very, very good for you. So, I fall into the bucket of fully, wholeheartedly believing in peptides, but I think you need to know them and understand them, talk to someone that knows them and understands them, and the different types that there are and the different ways that they can help your body, because there's like a peptide for everything.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And it's certainly shifting. And I think that that's why they want FDA approval. They want to now have a piece of the pie that's fixing people.
Yep.
And we know what will probably happen from that. They'll potentially compound them up and charge a lot more for them. So, it's interesting, but I do think that, I think RFK in his research with this, I think he knows his stuff on peptides, and does, for the right reasons, want them to be accessible to people, and certain people that will only do things by doctors might need that. So we're going to see where it goes. It's a slippery slope, and no one really knows where it's going to go over the next few years. But I just think responsible adults that can research and be smart about it can do incredible things for their bodies with peptides.
I feel like we're already getting a taste of what it's going to look like in the medical industry with peptides, with the GLPs. They're overprescribing them. They're giving them at too high of doses. They're causing, which have adverse effects, where if they just cut the dosages back, that people can lose fat, retain muscle, not blow up as soon as they get off of them. Like there's so many things. So it's like the medical industry is already doing what they do.
Yeah.
And that's
sad.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And it's funny because the pharmaceutical companies were so against the peptides, and now, like you said, they're investing in peptide companies. So there's going to be a big surgence of them coming onto the market in the next few years.
And then the prices are going to go up, and it's just going to be very interesting. But, again, I think that COVID opened people's eyes to a lot of this stuff, and understanding, and I'm totally for Western medicine. I wouldn't be standing up if it wasn't for some of the pills that I take. And I love my doctors. But I also recognize I treat going to doctors differently now. I do it more of like, what can you offer me that I can research and determine if it's going to be the right thing for me, rather than just whatever you say, I'll take and I'll do and I'll blindly believe. So it's a better approach for me to do it that way. And I think more people are falling into that, although there's still going to be people that, only what my doctor says. And, you just have to make your own decisions for your own self. But yeah, certainly things are changing.
Yeah. We had Dr. Courtney Barrett on a few episodes ago, and she's direct care. And so she was giving us some of her insight experience into healthcare, and it's a lot of the same type of stuff.
Yeah. When I saw, I will never say who, but someone had let me see their bonus incentive structure that they got by how many vaccines that they gave out. And that was a big eye opener for me, that they were getting bonused off of how many vaccines they were giving. So, and
then there's the fear side of it too, the lawsuits and insurance for the doctors to keep, and like, you can do things within the guidelines, but if it's not the norm of care, you're still open to lawsuits.
Yeah.
So doctors' hands are being forced.
Today. Yeah. Things are hard.
Yeah. It's rough.
I know.
And I think it's interesting because like, it's not out there enough. Like, I feel like most people don't know about these alternatives and these holistic options. And then it's not like, back in the day where it's, grandma said, take this and you'll feel better.
Yeah.
This is like research, science proven.
Yeah.
And like, how do we educate people on it?
Yeah. And it's not easy stuff to educate on, especially when you're dealing with like mitochondrial dysfunction and all kinds of stuff like that. Like, that's heavy stuff that you gotta learn and go back to serious biology and anatomy and physiology. And so, a person really has to be committed to but you can live a very, very healthy, good quality of life with a lot of these alternative pathways to go through.
Yeah, I started getting into it for myself.
Cool.
I was like, nothing seriously wrong with me. I was just not taking care of myself.
Yep.
And just started eating different, and then introduced in some supplements and some different things, and drinking salt water in the morning, and like just these different things that I started doing. And it's like, instantly I felt better. Like, lost 35 pounds in 90 days, like just felt amazing. And then as I started getting deeper into it, my wife has an autoimmune disease, and it's really rare. So there's nobody trying to fix it. Nobody trying to, like, every once in a while she'll get into a trial, but it's usually like cancer medicine or something. And it's no good. So it's like, anytime you have one and there's flare-ups, like, there has to be something that's causing those flare-ups. And like, so then I started diving deeper into it, and that's kind of where I'm at with it. Like, there has to be some sort of solution within the biohacking industry that can help, stop the flare-ups or at least get them lower.
You just got to keep trying. And it's so awesome to have a supportive person in your life. Like, there are so many people that don't have that, and I was lucky to have that. And it sounds like your wife is lucky to have that. I cannot say enough, like, how much I read that people's, like, spouses would just leave when it started getting, and I read somewhere that someone's quote was, you don't marry for, love all the time. You marry and you go through suffering together. So it's amazing to have a supportive person that actually takes the time to, like, research with you, and you don't feel so alone. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it would have been so easy for Chris to just be like, oh, it's in her head. The doctors are saying nothing's wrong with her. I'm trying to run a business. Like, bye.
Get this dead weight out of here. Exactly.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
The business side of it. So the most impressive thing is that you guys have been able to build businesses with people and not be in the day-to-day, and they keep running. So how do you do that?
So, so you mentioned Saltaire. I was a co-founder in Saltaire. With that one, after a few years, we actually sold that to an awesome owner. So that was just a great project. I loved that. Property specific, we really kept some amazing people that stayed with us through a lot of the hard times too, that helped us sustain the business. And, you know, everybody had really good years in 2019, 2020, 2021, et cetera. It might have even gone on a little bit longer than that. It's gotten a little bit harder now, but, you know, if you're surrounded by good people and have support, Chris is the broker in charge of our firm. I always say he's like the best broker in charge. He's available. He's always available. He might not be working in it all of the time, but when our people need him, he's there. I've always taken like a marketing interest in it to help some of our people and folks. You know, it's really important to me to be around people that I can help build up and get them to their best potential and best value. So with Property Specific, you know, it's sustained now. We've had that business for maybe 9 or 10 years. And it's doing really well. And it's, you know, based out of Wake Forest. And we had some years that we were like absolutely the top firm in Wake Forest. Some of that was when I was working really, really, really hard. At this stage of the game, he sold off the management component of it, and that freed up a lot of his time to step back, and that allowed him to totally transformed. I mean, he transformed business-wise, health-wise, knowledge-wise, how he was gonna, you know, he's the majority of running the business now. We also have another partner that's named Emily. My partners have been Emily, and Ellie. So not the easiest to remember. But anyways, we've got an amazing partner in Property Specific too that has really stepped up. So so from that standpoint, it's good people. It's really the most important thing. And we've got a good reputation in the area. And we have a lot of people that trust us and have followed along with all that we've done over the last 15, 16 years and have been impressed and know our work ethic. And so now business just comes to us. And so we don't have to fight for it, work on that part as hard. And we get to be a little bit more selective. He's doing bigger commercial stuff now. He's actually just launched, it's kind of funny because sometimes I don't even know the businesses we're launching. He just launched Web Partners doing developments and stuff. And, you know, losing the property management. Property management is so much like you're in the weeds with it. And when he sold off that, it really allowed him to get to the bigger brokerage side stuff. And I'm still there. I'm just there a little bit more in the wings of things, helping with marketing and stuff like that. I selectively work with folks. I don't want to use up all my energy because a lot goes into Health House still. But I have the ability to pick and choose folks that I really think I can help in a good way in real estate. So our real estate company is strong, solid, good, and good folks that we work with. With Health House, so that's still really new. You know, we're maybe 6.5 months into the first one and 4 months into the second one. And so I am in it a little bit more than I would like to be and where I'm working towards being. But right now, you know, we've got to get it to a sustainable place. I believe that our collaborative in Raleigh is sort of reaching a sustainable place. My partner, Emily, helps out a lot there. We have practitioners that are just, they're really good. It allows me to help with their marketing. and sharing my story and things like this get people to learn about it and understand and hear like how cool is it that you have a place you could go and see 13 different providers that may look at things a little bit differently. So that's doing really well. And then our one that opened 4.5 months ago that's in Rollsville, it's right on the line, Rollsville and Wake Forest. That one we've sunk a lot of money into. The build was super expensive. It's an expensive, to rent a place. I wish we could have bought where but there was nothing to buy at that time that would have done what we wanted to do. So we rented, and the rent is really expensive. So I am in it a bit to help things really get on track. I'm in there a lot, health coaching, talking to people about peptides, consulting and stuff like that. And ultimately, I want to get myself out of working there. Right now I work there 2 to 3 days a week, but I also love it. But I want to get myself to a point where I'm not working so much in the day-to-day, but really there for a higher level, to teach people some of the things that I know. We're already starting to do that, and get that place performing well and making sure people know about it, because it's really weird, but Rollsville seems like, to some people, like another state. It's even hard sometimes getting people from Wake Forest to Rollsville when we're really like in the middle of Heritage. We're about 6 minutes from there. But it's, I gotta get out there and educate people on what we've got there, because the stuff that we have there is unbelievable. To be able to see a physical therapist that can do cupping and needling and then get your peptides and then take a Pilates class and then sit in the contrast room and then go to a red light and then ending your day with a sound bed is like, what? Like, where else can you do that? It's awesome. And we have modalities that nobody else has. Like, nobody else has an Opus sound bed. And that is something that can like take you completely out of sympathetic fight or flight and put you into a really good parasympathetic state where that's when your body heals. So to have something like that, to have salt detox booths that I do every day, because they're 10 minutes and they can really prevent you from getting sick. You breathe in that pharmaceutical grade Himalayan salt. The way that it comes out in the salt booth, you're in a booth, this big for 10 minutes. You breathe that in. People have gone in that have said they've had sinus infections for like 5 months and they've been on steroids and all kinds of stuff. And they've gone in it 3 times and their sinus infection is gone. Like, it's crazy to me. And I'm so proud that we have that stuff. So I'm in there a lot educating. I think, like, as you said, there's a lot of education that needs to happen around some of these things. And I found a lot of these things to help me. So I'm in there educating, our front concierge team to make sure that they know how to appropriately tell people how to use this stuff. And then slowly but surely, I'll walk back out of it, because our intention will be to get another one in another area. And Em and I can't do that if we're working in them all of the time. So as we build and as we grow, we'll scale and we'll bring ourselves further out of it and then go into the next realm. And I really still want to have my hands in real estate to a degree. I love it still so much. So now I have 2 crazy passions. And now that I'm healthy enough to be able to do all of this, although it takes a lot of work to do what I'm doing right now, I know the work to do, and I'm healthy enough to be able to do all of this and to hopefully be giving back and creating spaces that people think are awesome and it can help them. And again, it's not just for ill people, it's for people like you that, you know, one day you said, you know, I'm healthy, but I want to get healthier and be a better version of myself. Like, that's what the spaces that we're building are doing. So we've got to sustain them. We've got to, you know, make sure that they are producing income so that we have enough to go off of to open another one in another area for people. So it's exciting. It's hard, and but we work hard, and I'm so grateful to be able to be back to working hard. That I don't care where I'm at in this. I'm here for the people and for like the business to be thriving.
It's awesome. No, it's definitely something that's needed because, like you said, the biggest issue before was access.
Yeah.
And now you're bringing something that is hard to find all together under one roof.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people, like, everybody's got a podcast these days, and like everybody knows everything. Everybody's an expert. And I feel like people get sucked in, oh, well, this guy on this podcast said that I should be taking this and this and this.
Yeah.
And they're not doing the blood work. They're not treating the deficiencies. My daughter did it. She got this idea that she needed to take more iron, and it ended up coming out in a big skin flare up, and nobody knew why. And they were wanting to put her on injections, which she would have to stay on. Yep. And I was like, no, there has to be, like, for this just to come out of nowhere, there's something wrong. Like, you moved, like you changed, like something in your environment something changed. Happened. And then finally we figured out, oh, it was that. Like, okay, go give blood, get it back down to normal levels. Yep. And it pretty much all cleared up.
Yep.
And luckily we fought her on the injections because she wanted to do it. Like, no, that's not good.
Test and retest. And there's an important thing to know, like, if your doctors aren't willing to run some of the tests, although most I would think would comply, but there's a website called requestatest.com that you can go on, and you can order any you pay out of pocket, but you can order any test you want, and you should be consistently testing your blood work and seeing where your markers are and what's making a move and what's not making a move. With my stuff, unfortunately, they don't know the blood work, the types to run. They don't know a lot of basic metabolic panels and then even more intricate ones they can run. But oftentimes with people that have some of the things that I have, it unfortunately doesn't show up in a blood test. On mine showed up that my complement level, like, who knew that there's blood tests for complement levels, complement 1, 2, 3, 4. And mine were all severely low. And that kind of cued them into, okay, like, something's totally off in her autoimmune system. But yes, blood work is, and testing and making sure that you're, like, watching markers and stuff is extremely important.
Yeah, that's kind of the point where I'm at. That's my next step. I need to go get blood work. It's like, at least I wanted to get myself back under control a little bit. Yeah. Take the things that I know will help. Yep. And now it's time to try and figure out what's next. Yeah. Yeah. You
saw Chris, recently. Yeah. He looks really good. He's in very good shape. Chris was, a few years ago, he's going to kill me. He was about 70 pounds overweight, really lazy about any kind of exercise or anything. He is a completely different person. And I think a switch went off with him, with my health, when he started seeing, like, okay, I'm like a healthy guy and could be working harder and doing that. And then he started seeing some of the things that I was doing and how they were helping me better. And then he learned about peptides and stuff, and he completely transformed. But also, I think a couple of his blood work tests that came back scared him a little, which got him kind of invested in really taking care of himself. And now he looks phenomenal, and he's doing these crazy things, like all kinds of the Murph and probably Iron Man and all kinds of stuff. So it's really important to stay on top of all that stuff.
Yeah. Mine was just, like I said, heaviest I've ever been. And then like, I noticed I was like grunting when I'm standing up. I was like, this isn't good.
Yeah.
I have 5 kids, so we're active too. And it's like, I'm trying to play with the kids and I'm overweight. It's like, plus I was dealing with a lot of stress. I was like, I'm going to have a heart attack.
Yeah.
Like if I don't do something, I'm going to
Yep.
not be here anymore.
Yep.
And it just finally lit the fire
Yep.
to get back in shape and do all this stuff. But then, like you said, getting into the biohacking's really got me, kept me stimulated and keeps me going in it. The red light therapy, I've heard that it has regenerative effects on degenerative eyes from like aging, like just normal, like your eyesight goes out.
Yep.
Is that true? And like, how does that work?
Yeah. I actually don't know the mechanics of how it works on your eyesight. I have read multiple times that it is very good for your eyes. I don't know too much about that on that level. I know red light and what it does in your body, you know, the way that it gets into, especially the high grade ones, that it gets into your cells, it gets into that mitochondria, it feeds oxygen, it feeds, it can recover and repair different cells that might be wounded or need healing or are dead and need to be kind of flushed out of there. But I'm not sure exactly how it works with the eyes, but I do know that I've read many things because we give people glasses because our red lights are really strong, and it's more so just to minimize that glow for them. But the folks that we've talked to have said them looking at the red light is actually very helpful for eyesight. So, yeah.
What about other services that you recommend for people? Like if somebody's just like, I guess just somebody like me that's just trying to be healthier, what are the first services that you would recommend to come in and try?
Yeah. So again, I mentioned sauna, and contrast therapy, especially for men, because their cortisol levels are different. But being able to pair that up, especially for recovery, if you do work out and you work out pretty hard, waiting a couple hours, going into contrast therapy, doing the cold to bring the inflammation down, is great for you and great for repair and recovery. And then saunas, like, I don't know, they're making like a resurgence, but like going in and sweating out the toxins that are in your body is so good for you. Unfortunately, I can't do it. If I go in a sauna, my blood vessels dilate and all the blood will rush to my feet and I'll faint immediately. But it's something that I wish that I could do, and eventually maybe I'll look into a protocol that maybe slowly I can train myself to be in them. I don't know. But saunas are awesome for people. Literally just to sit and sweat out those toxins is so important. So that and red light are huge improvements you can make to your life. Lymphatic drainage, any kind of work on the lymph nodes and draining them, because all those do is clog up your pores, clog up your pathways, make it hard for inflammation. It makes it hard for things to run through your body. So if you can, like I teach a lymphatic drainage class, like from head to toe, how to move the lymph so that you can really kind of eliminate that from your body. And then certain types of twisting the spine, like yoga moves with a lot of twisting, wringing out the spine is so incredible for you. Vibration plates that move the needle for lymphatic drainage and help with inflammation and things like that. These are easy things that you can do. That rebounders, again, another thing, like lightly jumping on the rebounder, that gets lymphs moving. It's movement in your body that's needed. You don't want that stagnation. And we spend so much time sitting that like it's so important to do some of those things. And then, as I started going down that rabbit hole, I do believe a lot. So it's very hard for me to meditate because I get a million things in my mind all of the time. But that is one of the reasons we got that sound bed. And it like takes you on a meditative journey. And it has vibrational acoustics that go with it. And it warms and it cools and it matches the frequencies in your body. And I can put those headphones on and put the iPad over my head, turn that red light on, lay on that bed for 45 minutes, and my body goes out of fight or flight. And it totally gives me 45 minutes of healing because I am unfortunately always stuck in fight or flight with what I've got. But if I'm laying there, not standing up or changing positions, and I put that meditative journey on, that can completely cause so many different types of healing. And then I'm really into breathing, like the box breathing that the Navy SEALs do is incredible. I have to have a lot of procedures done. I had a barbaric procedure done a few weeks ago, and the doctor said to me, take a big deep breath in, and then hold it, and then take a short deep breath in, and then blow it out your mouth. And that's what got me through that procedure because I was so focused and constant. I still felt it, but like I felt it and could get through it. So breathing is so important. And if you can add that ritual into your daily stuff, amazing. If you can chug 12 to 16 ounces of water first thing in the morning, that's awesome for your system. And literally chug it and then sip on electrolyte drinks all day long. And then learn your best eating plans, like work with a nutritionist to understand like what kind of eating habits are best for you. Because there's a lot of different diets out there, but there's a lot of good ones that can be great for your personal type. I could go on and on about like eating habits and stuff, but you should definitely do genetic testing and learn like if you have certain types of genes and stuff, and then you can bring that to nutritionists that can help you make eating programs around that can really help you get to your best, healthiest goals. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. You said the water in the morning. I do mine with clean mineral salt and then some aminos.
Yeah.
And the
awesome.
The bubbles.
Salt.
The tablet. Drawing a blank right now. But anyway,
for electrolytes?
No, it's
the bubbles.
Carbon monoxide.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Right? Is that the right?
I don't know if that's what you mean. It's all right.
Drawing a blank right now. I take it every day. But anyway, like at first I wasn't sure, like, all right, is this going to work? And like I added the salt, then I went to the aminos, then I went to and like now it's like my body craves it. When I wake up in the morning, like I can't wait for this tablet to dissolve. It takes like 15 minutes. And then as soon as it does, like 20 some ounces of water go down very quickly. Yeah. And it's like, it wakes me up more than like when I was drinking energy drinks. Like, it's just like, that's how I start my day. And great. Like, my day's rough until I have that.
That's great.
But instant hydration too. It's like salt has such a bad rap, and it's like, and I get like, we're not talking about like iodized salt or something like that, like good natural salt without all the chemicals in it. And it helps a lot.
Yeah. I think I want to get the alchemy sign for salt on me because first of all, why did I make up a business named Salt Hair? That's super random. And then my body just like lives and thrives off of salt, and now I have salt booths that I go into every day. Like I feel like I like salt of the earth, I guess, but I want to get the alchemy sign for salt, I think, tattooed on me, just because it's like everything to me. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. The way you start your day is of utmost importance. And then creating a little bit of a routine, and, working through sleep habits and things like that, all of that stuff adds up. And like I said, we're a generation that can live well into our hundreds, and will be able to with some of the new shifts that are going on and the understanding that they're coming out with. So hopefully people get as educated as possible. And that we try to do that at Health House. We have education series. We've had peptide education classes monthly, where we bring in nurses and different people to talk about them, and then just have kind of open discussions. Those have been awesome. We're doing a series in July where we have different people come in talking about like nutrition, and then the next week it's lymphatic drainage, and then the next week it's something else. So good holistic topics for health care and what you can be doing for yourself. So we're on like a mission to educate as well as, provide for people, which is cool.
All right. It's nitrogen.
There you go.
Nitrogen is what I take.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad you thought of it, because sometimes that'll kill you when you're like, what is that?
And then like you mentioned electrolyte drinks, like you're drinking, but you're not talking about like Gatorade or Prime or any of these things.
Yeah, this has no sugar. This has some magnesium and potassium, which I need. And again, this particular one has a load of sodium to it, but I need that, so not everybody does, but certainly replenishing yourself with electrolytes is really good. And there's ones that are based off of a keto diet and all kinds of other things. So you just find the best one for your body, what your body needs.
I think, did you say that you went to a biohacking convention last week?
So no, not like, I've been to some biohacking, and I was going to be going to a biohacking convention last week that we didn't get to, which is not like me. I usually get to what I want to, but there was stuff going on. But I virtually am enrolled in a couple of biohacking programs, and I love learning stuff from those guys. I mean, those folks dig and research, and there's loads that you can learn from them. So I'm a part of a few different programs.
Yeah. Do you have any recommendations for like podcasts or people to follow or listen to start to learn about this type of stuff?
Dr. Asprey is great. Now I'll name a few too, because I'm sure, hopefully, we can get this out to people too that have long COVID and MCAS and POTS and stuff like that. But Dr. Groisman out of Dallas, he's a long COVID patient and doctor, and he does a lot of research, and I really like his stuff. And then there's a gentleman that runs an autophagy Facebook group. His name is Tom. I'm blanking on his last name. But if you just researched autophagy, I also find some of the nicotine studies, the nicotine patches, super interesting. And there's a protocol that's a bunch of guys under a German doctor. I'll butcher his name if I try to say it, but I think it's under the nicotine experiment on Facebook that you can read, and you can read what we've always thought, I guess we knew about nicotine, but in small doses, the potential things that it can do to really help your health and not cause it's not like addiction. I mean, we're talking very, very low levels of nicotine and patches that can do a lot of great things with your receptors and clearing your body out. It's just wild.
And even like ADHD treatment and autism treatment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And kids too. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's really good stuff. So those are things that I would recommend. I learned a lot, when I was first in a really bad place going into some of the groups. And it was hard at that time going into some of the groups because it's you got to weed out like a lot of people really feeling down. And that can be hard on you. But once you're in a better place and you can go back and glean some of the recommendations and the research that they're giving and really listening to some of the people that I think Tom Brolin is his name. He's a high level researcher, I think some type of scientist, and he runs that autophagy group, and he does a ton of research and information and collaborates with people. I've learned a ton from him. I really liked reading the medical medium books because I learned so much about juicing and like how much protein you can get from that in your body, and how you can get like 10 different good ingredients into one thing that you drink, and how good that is for your body. So I liked those books. I take what I need from them. I don't take everything as Bible, but what can potentially work for me, I try to extract that from any of these things. So any of those types of things that you follow are really helpful. Dr. Asprey is a good biohacking. This was a great biohacking conference that just happened again last week that I wish I could have gone to, but wasn't able to. And I think it was led by, or he was there, but it was led by some awesome people. And then, going into any of the Facebook groups on biohacking, there's a lot of them. I look for ones that have a lot of people in them because I know that they're sharing it for a reason. So that helps me kind of understand the ones that I want to be in too.
What do you think about like Gary Brecka? I know he blew up just because of who some of his clients were, but I like his podcast too.
Yeah, I love that. There's some, I'm trying to not bring up controversial ones, but I think there's some stuff to learn from Dr. Pompa. There's a Pompa program out that helps your body detox and cleanse. People sometimes say negative things about it. It's expensive, and I know not everybody can do it, but you can read on Reddit certain things about his protocols, a lot about detoxing your body and how to clean out spike proteins and things like that. There's an endless amount of information if you just research the right things. Honestly, using like a medical grade ChatGPT, upgrading it to where it's like a more advanced level and knowing how to pose the right questions can be really helpful. I mean, I wouldn't say, again, with that, like follow everything to a T, but use that for adding additional information into what you're trying to accomplish, because it can be really, really helpful if you're using it in the right way.
Yeah. And there's ways to do it. Like, obviously, a lot of this stuff takes money to do, but there's ways to do it without spending a lot of money. There's just going out into the sunlight first thing in the morning, looking up at the sun with your eyes closed, but looking up at the sun in the morning, walking on the grass, like grounding. Like, there's so many things that you can do to make your life just a little bit better.
Yeah, exactly.
Without taking all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's some of the stuff we try to teach at Health House, like, because you'd be surprised at how many people just come in blindly, not knowing any of this, just always knowing only the Western side of medicine and listening and thinking like, what? And this is brand new. And those are folks that I love to talk to because it's just opening up a whole, if they're open to it, then it's really like opening their eyes to a whole new world of so many healthy things you can do for yourself that can move the needle. Certain turmeric on stuff to bring inflammation down. And I mean, just, the sky's the limit on what God has provided for us to do. So, like you said, a friend of mine, Harry, it was one of the first things when I was really sick. He was like, just make sure you get out in the sunlight every day for 10, 15, 20 minutes if you can, and just soak up the vitamin D because your body's probably running so low. Lo and behold, it was like completely deficient in vitamin D. Those are really important things. And that's why blood work is important to get done to kind of see where your markers are.
Yeah. I was like, we have a flu season and then it's, people are indoors a lot. People aren't getting vitamin D and they don't make that correlation.
Yeah.
Like that's something you're missing.
Yeah.
That's something that's
Totally.
not helping you fight off these,
Yep.
Viruses and stuff.
Yep.
And it's just,
Yeah. Yeah.
but you don't know until you know. And it's, again, educating yourself and learning that, okay, we need to, even in the winter, in the snow, whatever, wherever you live, you still got to find ways to get your vitamin D.
Yeah. I'm going to knock on wood right now, knocking. But obviously I've been very chronically ill for 4 years. But in these 4 years, since doing what I'm doing now, I've not got sick one time. And before, I used to get sick 3 to 4 times a year. And when I got sick because of my previous illnesses, a normal cold would have taken me out for like 3 weeks. And I have not been sick for 4 years. And that's like crazy.
Yeah.
If I even think that I'm getting sick potentially or was around someone, I'll give myself a peptide alpha thymosin for 7 days, and I'll use the salt booth at our place and do all the other things in the arsenal. And it's crazy. I cannot believe that I went from being sick 3 or 4 times a year to not getting sick at all for the last 4 years. So totally wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Taking care of yourself.
Yeah,
it
that's
helps.
right. Yep.
Well, I think we're just over that 2 hour mark, so we can
God.
start wrapping it up.
Sorry, guys.
No, it's great. I could keep doing this for another hour. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you want to talk about?
No. I think we've covered everything. I'm grateful for all of the information and for you being a wonderful listener and good questions for this.
I enjoyed it.
Good.
Couple rapid fire.
Yep.
Advice for entrepreneurs.
If you're going to be an entrepreneur, you got to be risk tolerant. I mean, you have to be able to take a risk and go with it. I think that most entrepreneurs have gut instincts, and I think it's important to follow your gut and lead and trust with that, and surround yourself with people that are better than you at the things that you are not good at.
And advice for people facing health challenges.
Find that will to fight, dig deep in it, find something each day that makes you happy and that makes you want to be here to fight for, not to give up, and continue with that every day. If you have to find something, like if it's your dog that, jumped on you and was so happy to see you, like if that gives you purpose, then like find that each day, because you need the will to fight with severe, especially rare chronic illnesses. So I think that that's the most important, and surround yourself with people that will be good and kind and patient with you.
And then just tell people where to find you, follow you, find your businesses, anything you want them to know.
Yep. So I'm on Instagram as Lori Valenti Webb, and Health House is Health House NC on Instagram. We have a website, healthhousenc.com. I'm on Facebook under the same thing. And we have a TikTok as well under the same thing. And then we have a TikTok that's MEM and Lori. But I put a lot of my stuff out on my Instagram that talks a lot about what I'm going through. So Lori Valenti Webb is a good one, and then Health House NC is a good one.
Awesome. We like to end every episode the same way, because once I figured out my definition, it changed how I live my life and run my businesses.
Yep.
How do you define success?
Well, to me, these days, success is faith first, family, and fortitude and perseverance. I think that those are all like major, impactful, meaningful terms that for me define success. Yeah.
That's a great way to end it.
Thank you
so much for coming on.
Awesome.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.